Come on, have a shifty round. Explore.
Yeah, I can't see anything, though. Am I supposed to be able to see? Because, like, it's highlighting stuff for me to interact with.
Have a shifty round. Explore.
Yeah, I'm trying, Doctor.
You're really close to it.
I can't see!
How do you open a video in which you intend to talk about the worst video game experience you've had in at least the last 20 years?
Goddamn piece. God. Shit. Fuck.
So, there was the recent release of Doctor Who Edge of Reality onto PC platforms. And I was actually provided with a code to be able to get it for free for the purposes of streaming and review. So that was provided to me. However, as will become insanely clear if it has not already, they did not require me to give it a positive review, nor did they provide me any copy to read about it. Now, this has been done with me a couple times before. This is the third game I've had review copy given to me for, and the second Doctor Who one. The previous one, Lonely Assassins, I actually liked pretty well for what it was. Not so much this one. Now, before I get into...
I'm stuck on basically the first real puzzle. She won't shut up.
Before I get into that, let me throw a couple of caveats, provisos, or grains of salt to take this with. First off, I have not played this style of game, which is a first-person, explory, puzzly, arguably bordering on walking simulator sort of game. I haven't played a game like this since, I don't know, Riven, the sequel to Myst. It's been a long time, is my point. It's not generally my genre. Somewhat attached to that is that I'm prone to motion sickness when it comes to first and third person games in fully rendered 3D environments. And I did get motion sick playing this. I don't think that's why I hated it.
I might use motion sickness as an excuse to stop, but, like, let's be very sincere. I do not want to play this game.
But, you know, it didn't help, and if you want to feel that contributed to how badly I felt about it, it's fine, it's possible. And then, finally, my understanding of this game is that it was actually originally designed for VR platforms, and from what I can find, or have heard at least, reviewed relatively decently as a VR game, and was then refitted and ported to standard PC. Now, those caveats I actually don't feel save this. Because in regards to the first one, the main reason I bring that up is because some of the things I might be about to complain about, particularly in regards to the mechanics and controls of the game, maybe this game plays incredibly standard for the genre. That's distinctly possible. If it is, I wouldn't know. But the thing is, part of the deal with a licensed game is when you do a licensed game, you are intending to bring in an audience who are attracted to the license who maybe wouldn't have engaged with this kind of genre or game otherwise. So you need to be accommodating to them. You need to explain how your game works.
How the hell was I supposed to know that?
Because it doesn't, it's a failure on that level, and I will be getting into specifics on that. But again, if someone's going to come at me, you know, the controls that they use for this are actually basic for the genre, I won't dispute that. It might be true, but I don't care because it's a Doctor Who licensed game. It should be accommodating to people who don't normally play this genre, so I shouldn't have been so freaking lost. So there's that. And then, in regards to the fact that it was ported and originally designed as VR, that actually explains a lot when I found that out after I played the damn thing. So that explained quite a bit. And again, I will get into some of the details as to what it explained. However, it excuses nothing. Because the things about it that I can see could possibly fit and work in a VR setting, you have to adjust for the new platform effectively that you're putting onto. If you're not going to do that, don't make it available and then charge people money. Do not pay money for this game. And I suppose that's the one last caveat. Maybe in the future they will patch this so it works and is not atrocious to play. I'm not going to play it again when patches become available. I had a terrible time. I'm not going to go back and try it again. But maybe it will be workable later. And maybe everything I'm about to complain about, even by the time you see this video, has already been patched. I don't care. I had an absolutely miserable hour on my Twitch stream, and I am not letting this game off the hook by going, oh, well, we'll fix it later. You should have had it ready by the time you gave me code for it. And it's very clear why it wasn't ready. They wanted to have this out before the new series premiered. But okay, let's get into some of the specifics of this. As I said, it's a first-person explory thing. So right off the bat, as soon as I started up, I was like, oh God, these controls. So WSDA to move, fine. Mouse to look around, turn, what? Also fine. The mouse sensitivity was crap. And I would move and try and get to turn it with like turn this tiny amount. I would have to like go over and over with the mouse to get the frigging camera to turn. Now, I went into the settings on the thing because, at least historically, to my memory, one of the advantages of PC gaming versus, say, most console games was that usually you are given a lot more control to do things like remap the controls and adjust the settings, graphical, audio, controls, etc. Guess what you couldn't adjust in this? You couldn't adjust the mouse sensitivity, nor could you set it up so like perhaps the turning and rotations could be set to the arrow keys while WSDA did movement. I would have been fine with that too. That didn't work either. So right off the bat, big problem there. The captions suck. I put those on for the benefits of the people watching my Twitch stream, but the caption box stays up for, like, in some cases, a quarter of the length of the time that a character is saying a line. So the sentence would flash up. I wouldn't have time to read it, and then the person keeps talking for another 10 seconds to finish the sentence that flashed up for all of 2.
That little time glitch. Nasty and dangerous, but you better get used to them.
So that was completely buggered. I'm trying very hard not to swear, because if you saw the stream that I played this on basically devolved into nothing but a string of swears.
This is I cannot turn for useless I cannot see like fucking coffee mugs. Holy Who fucking designed this? Oh. You.
Next up, let's talk about what I meant when I said I can definitely see some holdovers from when this was a VR game. The amount of items that are interactable and the degree to which you can interact with them feels very VR. Now, I have not really played VR. I played Beat Saber once. I'm hesitant to try VR because I mentioned the motion sickness thing. But I've had it said to me by more than a few people that one of the appeals of a well-done VR game is really feeling like you can interact with just about everything there. And so I don't know if I agree, but I've at least heard the argument that in a VR setting, being able to pick up, because the game starts in a laundromat, being able to pick up bottles of detergent and magazines and look them over and handle them adds to the immersion. Well, in a non-VR setting, it doesn't. Especially when there is a ton of bottles of detergent and useless magazines, which in and of itself might not have been the end of the world, and empty boxes. So many friggin' empty little drawer boxes. It wouldn't have been the end of the world, except for the way your inventory works. Because all of these items, when you pick them up, they get added to your inventory. I ended up with like 3 or 4 things in my inventory without even realizing they were going into my inventory. And I wouldn't have realized that was going to be a problem, except that you have like 7 slots in your inventory. And then it just won't let you it will barely let you handle anything anymore. You can pick something up, but you can't examine it. Because to be able to examine it, it has to have access to your inventory for some goddamn reason. And so I got to a point where I'm in the manager's office at this laundromat, and there's a safe, and and we'll come back to this whole setup. There's more. So, in the safe, I need to figure out a 4-digit code. Very standard puzzle for this kind of thing. Look around at objects and things in the room to get hints and figure out what the 4 digits are, plug them in. Very standard. It's already annoying because, like I said, I have to crank the mouse to friggin' turn around. So I'm already getting annoyed. I'm getting annoyed for another reason that I'll come back to in a minute. But I go to pick up a picture. It's like, oh, there's writing on the back. I try to examine it, but I can't because my inventory's full.
How do I?
And the game never told me how to drop things out of my inventory.
How do I drop things out of the fucking inventory that let me pick up useless empty boxes?
I had to open up my inventory, which is done just by pressing the number keys. It didn't tell me how to do that either, but I figured that out. And then I had to figure out how to drop something from my inventory, which I'd done completely by accident previously, but now had to because I couldn't move forward because I couldn't even examine things because my inventory was full. And I had to literally just blind hit keys until it dropped. It turned out to be the R button, for the record. So the game is designed in such a way that I could unintentionally fill my incredibly limited inventory with detergent bottles and magazines that have no use and would prevent me from being able to pick up and look at things I actually need to examine. And never told me mechanically how to do any of this. And no, it does. When you pull up the settings, it doesn't give you a keystroke list. Or at the time I played it, it didn't. It didn't tell you what keys do what, so you couldn't even look up that to figure out what the hell you were supposed to do. And then the thing that absolutely drove me up the wall. While all this was going on, and I'm trying to figure out how to drop stuff so I could just look at the back of a freaking photo. By this point, the doctor, Jodie Whittaker, they brought her in to do the voice recordings, has been talking to me. She has popped in. There's weirdness going on. She's described that. She's talked about some kind of something. I don't know. There's weird, like, lizardy things all of a sudden in the laundromat, washing machine, whatever. I never figured out where that was going. I didn't play this game for very far. You might have guessed. But anyways, so I'm in the manager's office. And once I got the lights on, that's another thing I'll come back to. But once I got the lights on in there, she was telling me, okay, well, there's something in the safe that we need. Oh, it's just a 4-digit code. Well, okay, well, look around, see if you can get a hint.
I don't know what the code
You've got
is.
to find the combination to the safe.
Yeah.
It's 4 digits. If it was my combination,
Oh.
I'd go for 1019 personally. Lowest 4-digit safe prime number, obviously. But I bet the manager used a pair of 2-digit numbers. Numbers that meant something to him. Have a poke around and see if you can find out what they were.
The entire thing looped about every 30 seconds or so.
If it was my combination, I'd go for 1019 personally, obviously.
So while I'm struggling with these controls that it hasn't told me how to use, and I can barely turn around because of how bad the sensitivity on the mouse is, and I can barely see anything, again, I'll come back to that. She just keeps repeating the exact same thing over and over and over again. Looped dialogue is a fairly common problem in these big budget, fully voiced games, especially when they bring in an actual celebrity voice, because they're generally only going to get them in for like half a day of recording. So they have to use and recycle whatever they get. But why? Why would you program it to loop in such a short period of time that there's no possible way that you could have been looking around all the various things there are to be able to look and interact with that office before it starts looping at it again, and to loop at you with the exact same thing? So it's not even new information. It's not even like she's giving me a hint. And I mentioned not being able to see. In the settings, I set it to the brightest you could make it, and I could not see a goddamn thing for huge chunks of this game. Now, granted, initially, in that manager's office, I'm not supposed to be able to see very well. And I'm supposed to like find the fuse, except I couldn't find the fuse because I couldn't see. The only reason I knew there was anything was because there's a glisten to interactable objects. But so there'd just be a glisten in the dark. I'm like, I guess I'll click that. I don't know what that is. And then when I got outside the manager's office into the alley where there's a Dalek ship, I can barely see out here either. There's a light being shined down by the Dalek ship was about the only thing that lights things up enough for me to see, except if I walk into that light, I then die. And like, you can't move faster than this light tracks. So if you're in its path, you can't outrun it. You have to press yourself all the way to the side and hope to goodness it doesn't catch you. And then I get into the next bit. Look around, I find some keys. I figure I'm not looking at everything in here. I don't seem to be stuck in this room. I go out, I find some jumper cables. Then I get to what is an incredibly painfully obvious puzzle. There is a bus blocking the rest of the alley. There is this crane with a big magnet. And like, okay, so I'll stick the keys in and put in the jumper cables and I'll get this thing started. It would let me get close enough to the cab where it would highlight like, oh yes, use the keys. But I had to like finagle myself to this weird angle to get as close as physically possible before it would ever actually let me do it. Like I'm close enough that you're highlighting it for me, but you're not letting me actually interact. And then I had to try and use the sonic screwdriver to actually get it to work, and it required me to click on this little tiny part of this friggin' panel. No other part of the panel will work. I clicked on it by absolute accident. Oh, and by the way, the sonic screwdriver and absolutely key important items like those keys that you can't progress without also take up space in your inventory and can theoretically be dropped. Maybe. By then I'd figured out the drop controls, so maybe you can't drop, like, say, the sonic screwdriver. But even if you can't accidentally drop it, which if you can, that's bad design. But even if you can't accidentally drop it, it's still bad design because the inventory is so tiny and small that you're having a plot necessary item take up a slot in this tiny ass thing when you need it for the whole friggin' thing. Presumably, I don't know, because after I figured out the friggin' puzzle and got the bus out of the way, a Dalek showed up, killed me, and that's when I said, screw it. This was abysmal. I couldn't see. The doctor wouldn't stop chattering the exact same things at me over and over and over again. It didn't explain its basic frickin' mechanics to me. The inventory is tiny, yet is easy, and you are able to fill it up with crap that means nothing. This game was terrible. Absolutely terrible. And I feel bad saying that because I'm sure the developers know. I'm sure there's nothing that I'm telling them, if any of them are watching, that they don't know. Because like I said, I have zero doubt that this was rushed out to be on market in a couple of weeks ahead of the release of the upcoming series for the Doctor Who Flux or Series 13 or whatever the heck we want to call it. But it wasn't ready. It's not. And maybe the VR version played fine. I don't know. I don't care. This was the version I played, and it was terrible. Oh, I've got no other words other than that. Well, no, I do have other words, but it was the long string of swears that I rattled off while actually playing the damn thing. If a later review informs you that it has been thoroughly patched out the ass into something playable, maybe then give it a shot. But based off my experience, I cannot in good conscience tell you to do anything other than avoid this thing like the plague. Right now, at least. Again, like, I'm trying to be nice. Maybe it'll be patched into something decent. I won't play it even if it is. I had too terrible a time. I tried to play this thing, and the game spent the whole time punching me in the kidneys. I don't want to come back. Because even if you patched it, what'll it be this time? Just punching me in the shoulder? Oh, well, that's less damaging, but it still hurts. Ah, Doctor Who, Edge of Reality. No. Just no. Have you played it? I hope not. But if you have, did you have a better time with it than I did? Oh, somebody else also mentioned to me somewhere, like in a comment, they referenced a torch. If there's a torch, it's either something you acquire later, or if it's an item I have from the get-go. Again, that's one more thing to add to the pile of things the game didn't tell me I had or how to use. So, nah. Whatever your thoughts are on any of this, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Like, share, subscribe. I have a Patreon. You can help pay for my therapy. And no big pressure on that. But yeah, you can see what I've been going through with this. In any case, no big pressure on that. Try and take a relaxed attitude around here when I'm not losing my mind. So just come on back next time you need a break. And look at you, sticking around through the credits. I appreciate that. Well, you know what? You're about to be treated to a whole ton of names going by on the screen, but there's a few of them that I want to give special attention to. My special thanks to Bookworm, Jared Boyce, MJ, Tracy Scrabbit, Vincent Paul Bartolucci, Kaylin Schwartz, Edelin, Hannah Acker, Robin Moore, Ross Schultz, and Shay Lagurle. If you want to hear me mispronounce your name, check out the reward tiers on the Patreon. But for right now, thanks so much.